Well, we're back again at the middle of the night to talk about Chapter 4, or Episode 4, sorry, Chapter 20 of The Mandalorian Season 3. So if you haven't checked it out yet, well, I mean, it did just air, so if you weren't watching it live, we're going to talk about it a little bit right now. Let me just adjust the light here real quick. All right, fantastic. You can see my face now. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Dusty ass t-shirt. So this episode was directed by Carl Weathers, who also directed last season, and this is called The Foundling, and I figured we'd be looking into Grogu. Finally, because we have so many things about his past that haven't been explored, and this episode does exactly that, because you get to see a lot of that flashback in Order 66 play out while he's getting a new piece of armor made by the armorer, because whenever she's clanging away at things, that's when you get all your flashbacks and PTSD apparently. And you get to see a whole vision play out in which he is rescued by a Jedi, and eventually he is being let out of the Jedi Temple. He gets on the ship, light speed happens, and we've seen more than what we've seen before of that play out. I was not expecting to see any familiar faces. Part of me was expecting to see Anakin Skywalker walk through the door when the lightsaber cut it open, but then again it was the lasers from the clone troopers, so you know what, I'm glad we didn't get to see that, because that would have been too distracting, I think, for the longest time. But that's one part of this episode. It's also called The Foundling because there's the other Foundling, if you remember, the one that we were introduced to in episode 1, the one who just got his helmet, and he's captured by a creature, this dragon-like creature, and he's basically being held captive. And so now the other Mandalorians, being led by Bo-Katan, have to finally find the kid and save him. And you get a rescue mission playing out at the same time while Grogu is with the armorer. And I like this episode. It's quick and condensed to the point, and Carl Weathers, I think, directs it really, really well. The entire sequence that plays out in Order 66 is fantastic. The entire rescue sequence that you get with this foundling named Ragnar is great. It turns out to be Paz Vizsla's kid, which I thought was really great, because now it comes to a point where you can start humanizing a lot of the characters that we've seen like one-note stuff with. And Paz Vizsla, I think, is a cool character, but we didn't see too much in terms of emotional connect up until now. There were a lot of repeat points where it was like, oh, he's the guy who just looks at tradition, and it's like if you go even one step off, it's like, no, I don't like you. But in this particular case, I like that personal touch that they gave him, and I think eventually, as the episode went on, you got to see somewhat of an emotional, like proper brotherhood bond between him and Din Djarin. I thought the episode pulled that off really, really well. It kept it to that story, and I am excited to see what comes next. I think Bo-Katan wants to go look for this mythosaur, because you saw it in episode 2 in the water below. So I'm interested in how that's going to play out. And she does get a new signet, which is like an armor pad, because she loses a part of it during that rescue mission. And so I do like the fact that, she gets the other one and it has the mythosaur insignia on it, because it belongs to all Mandalorians. I think this is an interesting, direction to go with. I am curious as to how they're going to tie it back into what else is going on in Coruscant, if you remember episode 3. I'm so curious to see that play out. I think season 3 is doing some interesting things, because on one hand it is setting up the fact that, this is taking place in a world where we're going to start setting up the sequels, and at the same time we also want to set up like what's going to happen when it comes to, the other characters that we've known so far. And I love what they're doing with Grogu. I like the fact that Grogu is getting to do so much as a character this time around. It's not just a case where he's, sort of sitting around and watching the action unfold. He's growing up. He's getting into much more combative spaces and learning to be a Mandalorian. And so I'm curious to see how his journey progresses, especially since, Luke Skywalker is not in the picture anymore. Well, for now. Maybe he'll come back at some point. I don't know. I think the cool part about it is that because it's in the larger universe that Star Wars has established, any character can come back at any time, so you can have some very interesting things play out. And I'm curious if that's ever going to happen. And so I did really like this episode overall. I was very engrossed in it. Again, really like the Order 66 sequence playing out. I thought that was super interesting. The chase sequence that takes place throughout Coruscant, fantastically done. Carl Weathers is a really, really great director. Visually, it was spectacular as well. And let me know what you guys thought of the episode. I can't really think of much more to, say about it, because it's a very simple 30 minutes episode, very action heavy. And I think the last time we did the episode, I think that was also episode 4 of season 2. I think you did a really great job with that sequence, that whole trench run thingy from the facility that's basically run down, and then eventually they find out about the cloning system that's going on, and so they're sort of connecting all of those things together in some ways. Let me know what you guys thought of episode 4, chapter 20 down below. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe. Let me know all your thoughts about The Mandalorian season 3 so far down below, and as always, may the force be with you.